Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 397. 397. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'll be your chairman for tonight. And being Friday, it is expected that we should cover some legal case law matters as well as constitutional matters. I'll bow my head and say a prayer, after which I'll do a little short reading, as is the format of our program. Divine loving Father, once again we come before thy presence, asking that thou would accept our humble expression of gratitude and thankfulness to thee for having given us the privilege of life, first and foremost, and secondly, the opportunity to still be alive among our family members, friends, and loved ones. We pray that thou mayest bless our family members, our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, those of us who have, and our other significant ones, as well as our extended family members, uncles, cousins, aunts, and others. We pray that thou must continue to bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership, that thou would bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership as well, and that thou would continue to bless the rest of humanity, especially those people who are in harm's way and those who have need of food and clothes and shelter. We pray that thou must grant us the privilege of having a good program tonight, and that thou would put the words in our mouths so that we may express whatever needs to be addressed. We ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much for allowing me to indulge in that section of our program. I will go to the Songs of Solomon. And I'll read chapter 2, starting at verse 1. I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valley. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. And I'll conclude that as a short reading for tonight, since we're running a few minutes late. And I see we have in our background our senior engineer, Mr. Gregory Brackett. I presume he's probably loading something that he wants to grace us with. So I'll let him go ahead while I proceed with the beginning of the program. And whatever he has to grace us with, we'll just turn part of the program over to him when he's available. In the meantime, for tonight, I want to make some comments in regards to what's going on in our country of Belize right now in terms of the acquisition by BTL, or the proposed acquisition by BTL of the Smart company, which is owned by the Besenya family, Besenya being the surname of our country's prime minister and leader of government, and also majority owned by the Ashcroft affiliates. For those who have been following the ups and downs of this process, what I'm about to say may not be news. So, of course, our program is not a news program either. It's a program where we highlight the issues and travails that we have in our country, and where we as panelists on this particular program weigh in and contribute what we'd call our little 1 cent and 2 cents back home, right? That is that, whatever we have to offer as per our individual perspectives. Each and every one of us as a human being is entitled to having opinions, ideas, and conclusions based on our knowledge base, our vantage point, and our particular interests. Tonight, though, like I said, we want to go into a little bit of what's going on back home. A quick summation of where we were before we got to where we are today. That is that a long time ago, the Esquivel government decided to put the Belize telecommunication as a publicly owned, mostly or majority held institution on behalf of the people of Belize. And it was written in the bylaws that should have remained so, for whatever period of time, until the next government came into power and took or bought over enough shares that they gained control of the company and then proceeded to abuse the company's rules, regulations, and bylaws to the disadvantage of the public. And the owners then at that time was Mr. Ashcroft, who had acquired majority shareholding. Nevertheless, the government of the day, at that time, under the PUP government of Mr. Musa, decided that since the Ashcroft detail did not want to give a company that some colleagues of Mr. Musa, PUP members, wanted to create a company by the name of Intelco to compete with BTL. And Mr. Ashcroft did not want to give them the connectivity privilege, that is, to be able to ride on the national system that we had then, that he was controlling. The government decided to play hardball with him and decided to find a way to bring about the Intelco regardless, and they gave them authority to do so. It didn't work out, and Mr. Ashcroft was hauling pulling and bullywhigging in the process, and then the UDP government came into power after Mr. Musa, and they decided that they weren't going to play ball with Mr. Ashcroft the way he was monopolizing and taking advantage of the shareholders. So the government of the Borough administration decided to nationalize, take it away from Mr. Ashcroft and nationalize it. They made 2 different attempts because the first one failed, and they were able to successfully do it on the second occasion. But they did not pay Mr. Ashcroft all the money that was due him, or at least he was claiming that was due to him. And so the fight went on and went on. A few $100 million got exchanged, but the rest of it was not paid off to Mr. Ashcroft. So when the next PUP government came into power, which is the one we currently have now, they came in with an agreement to settle all accounts with Mr. Ashcroft. They came to the House and they declared that they wanted to do that. They said that they were settling all these accounts, and we gave the public, including myself, the impression that, well, at least we will have this man out of our country's business in that regards. He'll have his banks and his other concerns, but at least, he wasn't going to have us bend over the barrel. So they paid him off, and we thought that was that. Only to find out that the man had also owned shares in Smart, which was the next fledgling company coming up, and that the new government now was taking away the contracts that the government-owned BTL was, being controlled by and being paid. So, in other words, we owned the company and we were getting the services from the company free of charge because we own it. But instead, the Belizeans decided to take it and put it. Mr. Belizeans decided to put those contracts into the Smart company that he and Mr. Ashcroft controlled, therefore depriving all Belize government-owned BTL company of those revenues or the access to those funds, while at the same time government would have to pay out money to the privately owned Ashcroft and Belizean company. As if that was not bad enough, they decided, after so many years now, that those contracts that they stole from us and gave to the Belizean and Ashcroft company, they want us now to buy that back from them at an exorbitant price for more than what the company is really worth. And they're trying to deny the people of the country the opportunity to find out and know what their company really is worth. In other words, not only did they take away the contracts from us, they now want us to buy it back. But they want to buy it back as a puss in a bag. In other words, we're not supposed to know what it's worth. They just want to tell us how much they want us to pay for it. And it appears that the Belizean government, having appointed those members to the board of BTL, had enough influence on the board for them to go ahead and accept that kind of onerous and unethical and unprofessional situation. And some of us decided to holler, blue murder. We decided to, put our effort together because it's an issue of national concern, and a lot of people just start making hay and waves. And I see Mr. Brackett, Gregory Brackett, our senior engineer and also co-host, is available to us. So instead of me just continue ranting on for a second, I'll let him have the opportunity to self-introduce, and then I'll go from there. Thank you very much, Mr. Brackett. I yield, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Good night to you people at home and abroad. I want to thank you for tuning in to this, the 297th edition of Belizean Affairs. I go back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brackett. As I was stipulating, the reason why I went through that long journey of trying to say all of what I said before is because a lot of people, especially the younger generation, the young kids, who grew up and became adults over the last 15, 20 years, are not familiar with how is it that we are, or we got to where we are from where we were. Nobody has pointed out to them what was going on, what took place then, and they are just looking at what's happening right now and questioning, and nobody's providing the answers. So as I last said, the members of the board of BTL currently appointed by the present Prime Minister, who wants to have this sale go through on behalf of his family, because it seemed to me like he has more allegiance to his family than to his country. And, there are people who are entitled to that as a right. That's their perspective, that's their belief, that's their concept of life and living. But I think, from my vantage point, if you're going to put yourself up as a prime minister, and the Constitution says that there should be no self-enrichment, or that you're not supposed to use your position or appear to be using your position to self-enrich and or to commit a crime against the people of the country by being the Minister of Finance as well as Prime Minister, and suborning the financing and big contracts like what they're contemplating right now to for the acquisition of the smart assets involve millions of dollars. And those issues, because the BTL is majority owned and controlled by the government and people of Belize through the government investment as well as the uh, uh, Social Security Board, which holds money in trust for the social security of the employees of the country. Everybody have to pay into it, whether they want to or not. It's collected from their salary before they even get their salary. So we are all shareholding members of the BTL, and it's more of a public entity at 88% ownership publicly than it is a private entity for a few, probably ownership in the teens. So how come this demonistic mindset idiot that we have sitting there as the head of our board, appointed to work on our behalf, can look us in the face and tell us it's a private public entity, but he is running it apparently and intend to run it and control it under private rules, and to hell with us, the Belizean owners. The audacity of this idiot, you know, to tell us that in public. I mean, even if he contemplated those ideas, keep that kind of stupidness to himself. You know, don't come out and pretend that he's going to bamboozle us or lie to us or tell us what he thinks that he wants us to hear in order for us to let him do what he is being pressured to do. If he doesn't want to operate on that board, give up the appointment. Or if he doesn't want to operate on our behalf, he should be fired. But of course, as I previously mentioned, the person that appointed him is the person that is trying to get him to do what that person wants. So he won't fire him. In other words, I'll put names to those persons that I'm talking about because I don't want people to get confused. The Prime Minister, Mr. Briceño, appoints the board members of all these statutory boards. Okay? And he appoints people of his own confidence. As in the case that's happening right now, some of the board members apparently, as well as the chairman of the board, apparently, are of the impression that they have the right and authority vested in them to misappropriate or misuse their office or the position or the entitlement that office that they hold carries. That office carries a responsibility and for fiduciary accountability, not to the prime minister who appointed them, but to the people who are the shareholders and owners of majority shares in that company. Even the prime minister is not allowed, nor is there any law in our country that allows the prime minister to steal from the public or to hide behind the powers and authority and influence of governance to run any roughshod over the public accounts and affairs. Uh, I should just back up a little bit, having said as much as I said just now, and ask Mr. Brackett if he would like to contribute any thoughts in regards to what I was verbalizing before I move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
I want to say that what is happening with this detailed saga and this acquisition is something I believe that has been in the making for almost a year, and we, the people, did not know about it. I will tell you why I believe this was happening. Not too long ago, a question was asked to one of the employees that works on the PUC board. And when the question was asked by Mr. Vasquez, I believe, he asked her how long was the upgrading their regulations. And she said to him, it's like about a year since they started to upgrade the regulations. And what came to mind is why I believe this was happening is because when the story first breaks by Channel 7, 7 months had passed since this saga been going on. And the 7 months fit right between a year. That means all this was happening until it was disclosed by Mr. Vasquez. But set aside that, there is more proof to it than that. And I will again tell you why. Let me go to the tape so you, the people at home and abroad, can hear. On the 20th of January, this question was asked by Mr. Vasquez to one of the employees from Fox.
Since the PUC has shown its interventionist power in limiting the license of Starlink, it has shown that not all, everything isn't fine. You can't have unregulated competition. It intervened. It said Starlink rural areas only. I'm amazed that it can act with such a clear and astute sense of the market in limiting competition that Starlink can provide. But it will not do so when the politically favored BTL is about to gobble up the competition and permanently change the market landscape. Would you say there's inconsistency there?
No, Jules, I don't agree with you again, because as we've said here, that matter is before the PUC, and we will determine it. We will issue a decision, a well-reasoned decision when the time comes, and as we usually do with all matters that come before us.
I want to say that I don't believe her, and I will prove why I don't believe her. As I have said, this matter had to be going on in closed doors, and they were all involved in it because on the 20th of January is when they decided, when they put it out there that they were doing this regulation and they would regulate Starlink so that anyone with license can only work in the rural or what we call suburban areas. But then when I go to the next step, I want you, the people at home and abroad, to listen to this very carefully because per our Prime Minister, he is stating on the news media that they in cabinet decided that anyone who got license from Starlink, they can only operate in rural areas. And let's go to the state.
What we have said in cabinet is that if somebody applies for the services from Starlink, that we should allow them to have it if it is not in an area where they have access to the services that Belizean companies provide.
The Prime Minister could not have known that if they were not speaking to those employees in talk, because that was said the 20th of January by the young lady, and he went to cabinet after that when the pressure started to come down, and he came out and said the cabinet decided. The cabinet did not decide that. That was presented to them because it was already mentioned by the pup, the young lady in pup. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, Greg, for your input. And I would like to say that even before the young lady had been interviewed, that matter had been in discussion because Starlink was already attempting to gain a foothold in Belize. Okay, it took a while after Starlink started their process for this thing to have become public to the point where Jules asked the question in public, if you may recall the tape that you played. So it was before then that that matter was being discussed through the application to well, initially it wasn't an application. Initially they got in contact with PUC just as a matter of inquiry. They had not actually submitted a full application for services yet. After they had submitted their inquiry and they got some response that was not conclusive, they were supposed to have, if they wanted to follow through what they were told, that is that they would not get access to the major portions of the city and towns. Then the prime minister attempted to say, well, they will not be able to do so because we own as a country, we have a monopolistic mindset in regards to BTL and the survivability of BTL that we had paid so much money for, and we needed to be able to operate BTL without it being pushed into the ground by Starlink or any others. Even at that point, while in good faith apparently, and as a nice sounding piece of tape on behalf of the prime minister, verbalizing it the way he did, to show that he was trying to look out for the well-being of the country and the country's own asset as BTL. He was then, at the same time, within the same breath, whether knowingly or ignorant of the fact, he was in violation of the Constitution. Because he cannot tell nobody what part of the country they can go and work. He can't even tell them what kind of work they can do to survive. The Constitution specifies that no authority in the country is supposed to have any ability to tell you, an individual or a corporation, which is a entity giving individual rights as a corporate entity. He can't tell any company what part of the country they can go and work or not work. Even if he makes a law with his colleagues to say that, or if he get PUC to stipulate that in the agreement to these people, it's illegal. The government can be sued, and those people, Starlink and whoever else, not get that kind of infringement on their rights to operate and make a living, can sue our government locally, nationally, and internationally under international laws, because those corporations like Starlink and others, they have their back covered. When they come to our little small countries, they're coming to fleece. Okay, they are extractors, and they have what you call boilerplate corporate bylaws that our local Belizean laws does not supersede, because they come under laws of treaty, and the laws of treaty always supersede the local country's laws. And if anybody thinks I'm talking above my pay grade, check it out for themselves. That's the way corporate. That's why Mr. Ashcroft always, in source, he just threatened to sue, and because of the laws that he is operating his business in Belize with, which are based on the international laws under the British Commonwealth system, that those laws trump our local Belizean law because it's a treaty. It's the same thing with the American companies, like in the case of ASR BSI. That's why they were allowed to we couldn't go beyond the law. Our local laws that they made said that they were empowered and entitled to, based on the statutory instrument that they had made at the time, that they were entitled to those documents that exposed or should have exposed ASR's financial dealings, so that we could have known how much is being taken from the cane farmers and how much is being given to them, and whether those numbers were correct. But under international treaty laws, we can't force those other companies, outside companies, to give us their international books. We couldn't enforce them on our own constitutional laws, as I just mentioned earlier, that we couldn't tell them how to run their business, what job to do. Our own laws or constitution says that the government has no power or authority to do that. But yet these idiots, they go out to the house and they make these bogus laws that can't stand scrutiny when they have to implement them, or they are questioned by the court or the legal system. I yield back for a change, Greg.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
Actually, that is not a international law. What happened? Belize had signed a treaty with them, and I see it as a stupid treaty because they can come in and they can invest. But what can Belize take abroad in the UK?
Nothing.
What corporation do we have? None whatsoever. I want to say good night to you, Mr. Morrison, and welcome to this 397th edition
Good night,
of
Mr.
the
Morrison.
Affairs. I go to
Uh,
you, Mr. Morrison, to introduce yourself.
Mr. Morrison, I think his
You might be
his
muted,
mic is
Mr.
off.
Morrison.
Mr. Morrison? Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you. Good night, sir. Thank you very much for gracing us again. And as the chairman for tonight, we're entertaining some discussions. I'm not sure how much of it you probably heard in the background. Um, uh-oh, we're about to lose you just now. Could you just self-identify for us, sir?
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please self-identify to the public.
Okay. Good evening, all. Gregory Morrison, here in Los Angeles, California, and it's a pleasure being with you this evening on the current affairs program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Greg, you had something else that you wanted to say just now?
Yes, as
In
I
addition,
was stating, right, I see it as a treaty that is stupid, where you can have mega corporation like what Mr. Ashcroft is doing come in and just take over the country. And we here in Belize don't have that kind of financial backing to set up any kind of entity in the United Kingdom or Europe. With that said, I go back to you, sir.
thank you very much, sir. And you're 100% correct on that point, because I hold the same perspective in regards to that particular point. I don't know why our people are so easily suborned by foreign entities that come in and establish themselves, and they could make money in our country, and without paying any taxes, without paying any duties, without paying, I mean, they contribute nothing. They extract from our country, and our country benefit very little. But our people, our leaders, are always apparently of this mindset that they should go ahead and sign these onerous contracts or international agreements that we don't benefit from. We don't have anybody else. I mean, let's say, for example, Miss Marie Sharp, as an example, okay? She wanted to go and do business abroad. She had to enter into an agreement with the foreign people in order for her to get her business done abroad with the help of people from abroad. She couldn't come from Belize to the States or to any place else and just go set up business under the same very treaties that these other people can come to our country and set up shop and benefit from. In other words, it's only a one-way street. Um, I have more that I would like to say, but I need to yield to our colleagues and our next panelist who has graced us, Mr. Morrison.
Mm.
Like I said, I'm not too sure how much of what were
Yeah,
discussing
no, that's
earlier.
fine.
But please
That's fine.
be free to give us
Yeah,
your perspective, sir.
yeah. Well, we always have to remember that colonialism has never really left us, and it it dug itself deep into the society and structure that we have left. And when it's not colonialism, it's neo-colonialism. And so, what this uh, has left us with is that everyone else is fighting for the crumbs. We're fighting over the crumbs. And what has happened is that chains have been replaced with contracts. And so we're all now stuck with whatever contract we could sign and whatever stuff that lingers from that system that was never intended to serve the interests of the people that was left in these countries. And so for that reason, Ashcroft could come and set up uh, business in Belize and be granted the most favored condition, like you said, holiday and taxes for 25 years. That sometimes it even appalls the sensitivity of some of the same colonial people, but yet, um, because that was one instance. I remember there was when Ashcroft first came to Belize to set up his banking system. The government of Belize at the time gave him such a lucrative um, tax holiday that it offended the sensitivity of the British Parliament that they cancelled
Hmm.
a um, a grant that they were going to give to Belize at the time of I think probably like £10 million or something like that, which would have been almost $20 million or so Belize or 20 something like that. So sometimes these, but yet, what I'm saying, sometimes these things happen, but yet our own government saw it necessary because they were given a chance. They were saying, repeal those tax holidays that you're giving to this company, and we will then go and give you and continue the process of giving you this grant. And the government of Belize, in face of that, refused refused to repeal the taxes that was given that would have created the tax holiday for the Belize Bank and the Ashcroft Alliance. I don't think they were named that at that time, but refused to make those gesture of change. So um, the corruption that this provides to our leadership, to our governance, is astounding, and it just tells us that we need to find ways to make things accountable and more just when we're dealing with these mega companies, as you put it, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison. Um, I would like to, before moving forward with the rest of the program in terms of the other issues, I'd like to go back quickly, and I have a personal peeve or a concern. I've heard quite a bit of people. I, sh- I won't call the names. I won't call names. I've heard quite a bit of people intimate that what's happening in Belize is because of the historical mindset and trap that some people believe that Belizeans are in because of the previous system of governance that we were under. And I have a hard and difficult time believing that that should be the focus, because the truth of the matter, we got self-government in 64. We were supposed to have been governing our affairs from then. We got independence in 81. How many years ago? Almost 50 years ago, right? At least 40, 45, 45, more. I mean, so our problem in Belize in terms of our governance is not the laws that we were left with or that we have. It's not the system that we were left with. It's the bullyragging of the process by the mobsters, connivers, and vampires that we have running our system. We are unfortunate enough to have a series of people who have no nationalistic mindset and or patriotism in their bones to have done the best they could with what we got and what we have. As of today, the first part of this discussion tonight falls on the shoulder of the very prime minister that we have in the country that is trying to run our governance system that he is leading, not the British, not even the Governor General, or local born Belizean, who have the highest powers in the land in terms of running the day-to-day affairs of the country, are trying to run it in such a way that they benefit from it, even though the laws of the country that we have, which we inherited, which came from over 1,000 years of jurisprudence and legal, precedents and processes, tells us that our prime minister, nor anyone else below him, has any laws that allow him or her to rob us blind or to abuse us the way these guys are abusing us in the open, with our eyes wide open. Why? Because they have the power or the authority of governance in their pocket. To hell with that. They got that in their pocket as a trust on our behalf. Our problem is that we don't have people who we give that power to, that holds those power and exercise those powers as a trust on our behalf. But yet we have the temerity among us to say that, well, all of that is accrued to the detriment of the country because of the British system that we inherited. Bogus. That stuff belongs at the foot of the people who had self-government from 1964, have independence from 1981, and who are currently holding our powers of governance. The laws tell them that they're not supposed to be committing any onerous crimes against the society. They still violate the laws with impunity. And then a lot of the people may say, well, it's because we're supposed to be anti-British because the British were the ones that had us enslaved. The British have long gone from our lands. What have we done since the British left? Or that we kicked them out? Or that they don't even want us to talk about the British. Let's stop talking about the British. What has our government done from since Independence Day till today in terms of bettering our country compared to our neighbors? Or for another way of saying it, how much better off could we have been had they been giving us what you call proper government, legal, and I mean almost everything that they do. They go to the House to make laws, it's illegal laws, violating the Constitution. They go to the House to pass bills to get money. The money disappears, and what the bill was about is I'm saying, and I'm going to repeat it. I don't have a problem with us having gotten rid of the British or need to get rid of the British or whatever. That is not my problem. My problem is with the people that we entrust our powers of governance with that are robbing us and taking advantage of us. And if we don't get to focus on that and stay focused on the British, we won't be taken to the Cleaners Mining Union and net for forever because we're not having the British anymore to deal with. But, I don't want to make that the focus of the show for tonight because that was supposed to be I need to yield back. Mr. Morrison, I think I kind of spoke to something that you were saying earlier. Yes, okay, wait. Not because Mr. Morrison has said what he said. I could call him.
It's okay. It's understood, Mr.
It's a big number of people. Yes, sir. It's a big number of people who hold that idea that we are supposed to be anti-British because we inherited a bad system and we need to move on. They're not taking us on. They're not moving us on and doing right by us, which is my complaint. I yield back, sir. Whichever one of you don't want to take it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're
And I
welcome, sir.
want to rebuttal what you say because I'm of the mindset that that is totally untrue.
Go
Because
ahead.
if that was true, countries like Australia and Canada would not be making it. And they were also a part of the British. In
Hello?
fact, they are independent and still carry the king, if I should say, as head of state. So that's a totally different mindset. What I want to say is, as you rightfully said, Belize was a country of abundance. It had been reaped dry. They have not planted back. Everything that Belize had has gone. And then we have past and present government selling off what is left of our patrimony and giving away concessions to external investors who come into the country due to free tax break when anybody knows that every country in this world, in order to have it regulated the right way, you must collect your taxes and your duties to make it work. So I don't want to hear that mindset because we have moved from colonialism to neo-colonialism. True, we cannot move forward because those we put in government is using the reverse psychology to keep us that way, not the British. And if you look around, you can see it. Everything is going private, public, public, private, and that's not from foreigners. That is within our own government. Who is doing that to self-enrichment with themselves and their cronies?
Uh,
With that said, I will yield to you, Mr. Morrison.
Yeah.
Mr. Morrison?
Um, yeah. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I had mentioned about the colonialism portion in reference to the fact of why Ashcroft could move about in Belize structural system so easily, and why we as a Belizean company cannot do the same working in the United States or in the British system or country as easily. That was the contrast I was trying to say, that the structural systems of our Belize government, the legacy of all that is the colonial structure that makes that possible, that they could work in our society and the reverse is not possible. That was the contrast. But
Oh, sorry.
but but in saying that, it is true that the Belize government, the Belize leaders, are the people in charge of our structure, of our society now. And they're the one that is creating this system that allows these companies and these individuals to operate within the structure of our society. And there's no way, because the system was never structured to hold those government and those individuals accountable. So that is the extent to which I was lending that power of colonialism and neo-colonialism as it is currently structured. We 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 have the go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
Uh, yes, sir. Thank you very much. I won't be long. The issue or my problem personally is that these people, both in UDP and PUP, from 1981 and even long before, like I referred to or mentioned, but at least from 1981, we have had companies that come into our country, and whatever the government does for one big corporation, because every time they do those things, the people in the government, certain individuals get their pocket line and to hell with the treasury. That's the approach. They don't care if no money gets to the treasury so long as they get their piece of the pie. We need a different mindset. We need people to be interested in getting whatever could come to the treasury to help finance the development and furtherance of the country, rather than just individuals trying to hustle off the powers entrusted to them. That is where we have our problem. And I won't belabor it more for right now because I would like to return back for your comments. So I knew you was trying to give me a little chance to comment. So please take it back, Mr. Morrison.
Yes. Okay. What you explained there, Mr. Brackett, was the point I was going to lead on to,
Okay, I'm
and
sorry.
what that structure was is that, and what we're seeing and what we require is people of goodwill, people of virtuous people that um, will not betray the confidence of the people by just selling out for personal and individual enrichment.
Hmm.
That is what we desire and what we have a difficulty seem to be gathering among the individuals that address themselves for make ready themselves for political offices or or the business dealing in our society, and that creates the capture where we cannot easily get individuals that will represent the interests of the nation and the citizens of Belize, but rather first come is their personal family, themselves, their grouping, their clique enrichment. And that has somehow tarnished and destroyed the ability of our country and our people to prosper, because there's always this side kickback that undermines the national interests. When it is not personal, it is political. And we see that consistently across the political parties that 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 has represented us, and particularly since independence, when we have started managing the national affairs, and that has what has undermined us in every way in moving forward. But we cannot deny that the existing structure of governance that hides these people and hides the ability to give full disclosure, and then the unwillingness of the parliamentarians, whether it is PUP or UDP at any point, to make the necessary changes in the laws that allows the full disclosure, is what continues to screen and encourage this sort of corruption. Time after time, you hear this person or this government or these people in this government is corrupt. But then in the end, when government change, even in the government, there's never the willingness to bring these people to full
Okay.
accounts, to to address the wrongdoings that everyone knows is going on and that is destroying the welfare of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I got you, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Morrison, you are right. Because both past and present governments refuse to enact the rightful laws to hold themselves accountable. And a small nation like Belize would have to depend on UNCTAD. And I don't see that coming right now. Because nobody, as I said, wants to be held accountable. But I want to say this. In Belize, we are living in a designer system designed to keep us down right where we at. Because past and present government has never played their role. And what is the role of a government? To take care of its internal policy and its external policy. Both governments, past, present, has failed at its external when it comes to the Guatemala crisis, has failed with its internal. Belize cannot move forward. It has gotten worse. They have failed to create long-term jobs for the people. They speak about getting an education. Everyone send their child to school, to college, graduate, and go on. And when they are finished, they cannot get a sensible job. So what happens? We lose those minds abroad. Belize have a lot of good nurses, doctors that are living abroad. Why? Because there's nothing home for them to look after. And it falls back on both governments. You know why? I'll give you an example. Look at these BPOs right now in Belize. They are by government called essential service,
Crazy.
if you understand what I'm saying. And then the essential service that is really needed by the people is lacking. How much ambulances are there? How much fire trucks are there that should help the people in Belize? How much adequate hospital is there to take care of the individual? Even though we are paying taxes, the government has found a way to go inside the people's pocket again whenever they try to modernize. A prime example is the vital statistics. They want to go digital at the cost of the people at 100% plus. Look at the immigration, your passport, 100% plus. So every time they do something that people is already paying tax for, they want to come back and charge the people again and again for it. All the concession they give away that should have the economy of this country rising. That is why Belize cannot move forward. With that said, I go back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Uh, Mr. Morrison, uh, I know we have always been graced by you uh, on topics that we choose. Most of the time, we come prepared with certain thing behind the back of our head, and we just run the whole show as we see fit in that regards. Uh, I want to, well, I didn't take the liberty to do so before, but I would like to do it now to ask if you have a particular issue or that you'd like to bring to us or raise or that is of concern to you,
Yeah.
anything of interest that you'd like to for us to spend a few minutes discussing back and forward.
Well, I don't want to introduce anything new and different
No,
to what we have in the topic tonight, but
no, sir, no, sir, no, sir. I'm deferring all of whatever else we have left for the rest of the program tonight, and I'm trying to ask
yeah,
that you take the liberty of freeing your mind or giving us a piece of your mind. Like what would I say? I believe. I hope that
yeah.
not the wrong piece of mind. uh, I mean, just to
No, no, no,
to
no.
grace us with your own
I
thoughts.
I do want to talk a little bit about there's some big differences in how the two or how the parties in the protests are viewing themselves.
Uh-huh.
I'm talking about the protests to have to block the
Their position,
BTL.
their position.
Yeah, yeah. I'm talking about the protest to block the BTL sales.
Uh-huh.
The opposition, on one hand, seems to want to be a little more raucous and a little more disorderly and a little bit more in your face than some of the other partners they have out in the yard, particularly the unions. They want to just be marching up and down with a placard, and I could understand that because they're generally teachers, employees of the telecom company, um, other government workers, and so they are subject to some very strict disciplinary behavior while they're out there in the public space, and so I can understand that the opposition now they're just individuals that have gathered to be part of this resistance, so they do not have as much hold say in the general structure of the society. So they are more willing to be a bit more disorderly and to create a little bit more chaos and in your face type of street behavior in terms of being voicing their opposition to the
A quick
purchase.
question. A quick question. Did you get to see the demonstration or the Yeah, it was a demonstration that the
Yeah, yeah,
PUP they did too at the
yes,
house.
yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
okay.
Yeah. So I in doing their characterization, I can understand why one would be willing to walk down the street and to force themselves through the police line and barriers and try and create a little bit more level of disruption. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think they have different risk levels of and exposures that calls into question their behavior. And while we can have and view those separation, we must realize that in creating a resistance to the government, they can there'll be forces that be willing to push the matter to different levels. And we should be able to accept and be able to live with and deal with those issues. I'm not talking about outright criminal behavior, but we know from past that sometimes these type of events reaches those levels, and we know that those are sometimes the actions that are necessary to make sure that the government is fully engaged and fully aware of the willingness of the people to
I
act.
am I am 100% with you, sir.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
yeah, and
I would say I'm not totally in agreement. I'm in partial agreement, but I'm waiting my turn to explain my
uh,
reason why. I
yeah,
yield back, sir. I yield back. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
okay. And in making those adjustments and understanding to those different actions that individuals and individual grouping are willing to take creates the balance and the necessary impetus, because each level of resistance sometimes it doesn't change policies, but it causes the parties that they're coming up against to realize that what we are doing is not going to go over easily, and we need to measure our costs. And that's why in the past, some people complain about, I'm thinking probably in the United States, where people complain against the different behavior of nonviolence of Martin Luther King and the rhetoric and possible actions of Malcolm X, and how in fact both of them, it's not one of them. One of them would not have made the necessary changes in the United States governmental policies. It was both actions moving together, and the threat of both, and the possible alternative of both that caused the government in many ways to finally, in the United States, to finally come around. So I'm saying there is an approach and there is a reason and there is a cause to have that resistance being fully exposed and fully optional to whatever necessary measure is needed to gain the attention of the power structure. So that's
Thank you.
where I stand with the need to move and to have both options available as alternative and as answer to whatever is needed to bring about the necessary changes that seek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison, for bringing
Mr.
up the point.
Morrison,
Greg, give me a shot. Give me a chance. I want to get to something quickly. Thank you very much again, Mr. Morrison, for bringing up the point. But my reason for saying just now that while I agree with you on most of what you're saying, but I hold different perspective in some of what you were advocating is that, for example, when the teachers they had their demonstration recently, well, not the teachers, the unions, they had they came out and did what you'd call a peaceful demonstration as compared to the political entities that came out and got a little raucous as you had described. When the teachers had their previous demonstrations, when they blocked the streets and they had problems with the police officers who were taking advantage of them and pushing them around, and the police officers were, in that instance, were actually acting as agents provocateurs to get the teachers them in a situation where they can then have a reason to arrest them or to put physical pressure on them, right? But in those demonstrations back then, would you have considered those demonstrations to have been, raucous too? It's an ask and answered question. I don't think you need to answer it, right? Because that's precisely what it was. Because I previously described what had happened, right, before asking the question. So the question is an ask and answered question, but I'm just saying that it's a matter of perception and the basis for the perception or the actions. For example, we have different levels of we have police officers, we have BDF, we have Coast Guard, and what else we have? But in general, to look after our security apparatus in the country, we have different levels and different types of people that are involved. Each of them have a different part to play. It's the same thing with political parties. In political parties, you have different individuals who have different perspective. There's some people that would not like to be on the forefront when these things are happening, when what you call the raucous behavior is happening, because they don't want to be part of that. Some of them say, well, that's not what they're out there for in the first place. Okay? But without that, you don't get the excitement and you don't get the full flavor of what's really at stake, and you don't get to have what we now currently have as we're having this discussion, the matter being discussed by the Prime Minister and other people in cabinet, and the majority of whom in cabinet are agreeing with the people who are out there behaving in a raucous way. They would not have gotten their attention and it's how the thing developed. It's the requirement that of showing that you're not going to put up with this craziness. You're not going to force it down our throat, regardless of if you hide behind the police security system of the country. The bottom line is that if we sit back and just, okay, let these guys have their own way or do what they want to do and have no resistance to what they're doing, because they know what they're doing is wrong, right? But the point is, if there's no resistance, then everybody sit down and sit back and it's just another day in the park. That's not what it's supposed to be. But anyhow, I yield back. Great. I yield to you, sir.
Thank you,
Great.
Mr. Brackett.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Morrison, I wanted to say to you that every country in this world was built on the blood and blood of some of its citizens. So I agree with you 100%. And that is all over. But I also want to say this, right? Had the 13th Amendment passed,
Hmm.
you would have seen the outcome of that little skirmish that we are now here tonight speaking about. As you can see, one of the members of the UDP who was carted away was labeled as a gang member.
Mhm.
It would have
Gratuitously.
been so
Gratuitously.
easy
Mm-hmm.
for the government to call an SOE and label everyone as gang members, even though
But
they were stipulating the law was being made for outsiders. So I hope people will wake up with reasoning and see where the 13th Amendment would have led us.
right
You
now,
want to give an input?
just a minute. Right now, The 13th Amendment is being said to be put on the back burner for right now. But now they're coming up again with the PCC on the forefront, which I had said before, it's never going to go away until they get it done. Now they're pretending that, okay, they're ready to put it out, roll it out there. They should have rolled it out long time ago for the people to get aware as to what is it in those documents. What is it that they're after, that they want to change? They're trying to wait until the last minute that they're ready to take the matter to the House or to wherever. They want to go through the process in a quick way that there's no resistance or no rebuttal or no time for redoing or undoing. We're dealing with a bunch of scoundrels and scofflaws, and that's our problem. I yield back.
And you know what? Just to piggyback on what you said, Mr. Brackett, because the discussion here tonight, even with the input of Mr. Morrison, with his concern and the mention of colonialism and neo-colonialism, if that was true, we wouldn't have a government who wants to take us to republic. That is to show total control. So it's always coming from within. It has nothing to do with trying to get away using repatriation. It's the mindset of our own people
Mm-hmm.
learning the pattern and taking advantage of it and using it in these private public and public private for self enrichment. I go to you, Mr. Morrison.
Yeah, thank you very much again, Mr. Brackett. You're right. The 13th Amendment would have shown um, the true abuse of how this governmental power would have been used. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we allowed it to be enacted. We saw the situation with the employee and yellow man, as they call him, or he calls himself, and how he was carted off, and how the intrusion of spying had endangered whatever communication he may have had on Facebook or um, or texting, that they seem to have claimed that he was um, calling for violence. And so I think that that shows the level of investigative tools that the government is willing to do, and how quickly they are willing to remove citizens from gathering and from participating in what is part of the democratic process of protest, and fighting against unjust laws, and also unjust actions on the part of government. And so that's why I'm saying the resistance movement, the ability to stand up and to oppose with all your strength and all your effort and all your knowledge, the actions is always going to be contested by the power.
But Mr. Morrison, you know what is so bad about that? When those who are supposed to uphold the law does not even know the law. The Constitution gives you the right to freedom of expression, freedom of association, and they are and freedom of assembly. The Constitution even gives you the right to protest. That is grounded in our Constitution. And you, as law enforcement, cannot label a constitutional protected activity an individual as a gang member when by law, in reality, he is a protester. So how do you move from that to that? But as I was stipulating, if the 13th Amendment had passed, the outcome would have been different. I go back to you, Mr. Morrison.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Brackett. Yeah. So what we saw then was that the meet at the meeting of the House, the Parliament, um, the Briseño, the Prime Minister, decided that just willy nilly, we're going to pull this off the table for now, and we'll do what was asked, what the people are asking. We saw some ministers, and what we have to be mindful is that Briseño, this is probably his last term, if such be. But what he's going to be leaving for these other four ministers who got up and said, in the pupi, that got up and said, we do we do consider that further discussion should take place, is that they realize that what they're going to be left with is a party of shambles if they do not deal with this issue properly, because the evidence and the effect of a bad decision in this purchase is going to remain with the people of Belize and this country for a very long time. And so, all that everyone have been asking, all the parties that I realize, is to have full disclosure. The disclosure, most people, I believe, some people claim that the action is in violation and is illegal and stuff. And there's some truth to that because of the current Communication Act, the way it was written about competition. But the government has the ability to adjust that law because of their supermajority. And so no one contests that they cannot work with that. And probably to bring about the change, the first thing, one of the first thing they'll need to do is to change the law and to say that a monopoly is like we have in other industries in public services such as water and um, and electricity in those areas where we realize that the small scale of the economy and the size of the society does make warranted the monopolistic approach to these type of businesses. So we hope that where the prime minister has made this decision to encourage that they look at this further, that it will be in transparency so that the people and all the parties can clearly and without any sort of prejudice look at the valuation of this deal and see if it is in fact worth the $80 million that you're asking. My suspect is that no, it's not worth that. What it's worth, we could only rely on some type of proper and fair evaluation to say what this deal is really worth. That he's putting it off and hoping to and presenting to us that there's going to be some type of fairness in it, in assessing it, is can only be our hopes that this will happen. Um, I'm hoping then that in the time being, in the time frame that we have, people will be able to gain the necessary information, and that BTL and that BTL will come to its senses, and that the Social Security Board will do a proper evaluation, that the other um, private interests, small tax not tax shareholders of BTL will also be able to get a chance to evaluate with honesty whether this purchase is in fact a benefit to BTL and its shareholders, or just a way out of dumping some money in the hands of these private investors, including Smart. And we hope that as they do this and put this time aside, that all the parties and the opposition will gain the proper footing. Because personally, I did not believe that the opposition should have boycotted the sitting of the House today. I think they should have been present to voice their position and register it in that body, and not if they wanted to be out in the streets with the people, they could have circled themselves, rotate themselves, going in and out of the house to deal with that issue. But I think they should have been present to voice clearly, because it makes it seems the way it rolled out, where the prime minister just said, "Oh, I'm going to table it for now, and or hold it off for now, and and then have it given a chance to be looked at with some more clarity." I think they had a responsibility to be in the house, and they sort of failed that trip today. Thank you.
Mr.
Uh,
Morrison, I believe in democracy and I believe in our constitution. And when you have a government hell bent on avoiding that, that is when it comes to at any means necessary. That is why we have the word democracy. But in the meanwhile, Mr.
uh,
Brackett,
I was looking for some specific uh, constitutional citations to read some of what we are talking about exactly as it's classified or stated in the Constitution for the public benefit. But what I had to take off the stuff that I had initially on the computer for the rest of the program and go and make some changes in the operating system for the computer, and then came back to it. And I'm just having a hard time being able to retrieve all the information. So I'll just forego that and just make a verbal comment. We're getting close to our closing time, so I'll just go ahead and do the verbal comment. In the Constitution, for example, it says that everybody, I think it's in section 13, everybody is entitled to belonging to a group, an organization, an association, or a political party, and the government have no rights or authority vested in it to deprive any individual from being able to exercise those rights or enjoy those rights. It says that the government should not, nobody in authority should tamper with those rights. In the first place, in that same section there, it defies what the government has done to the Belizean people to go to the legislator and make other laws, as is classified by the Second Amendment of the Constitution under Section 1, that the supreme law of Belize is the Constitution, and any other law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is, to the extent of that inconsistency, is null and void. And these guys go and make those other laws, which we all know are substantive laws, that they have the right and the authority to make. But those laws, in making them, doesn't mean that they are lawful, legal, or constitutional. And that's where the problem comes in. They make these bogus laws, unconstitutional law, illegal laws, voidable laws, put them on the book or leave them on the book, and they use them when they want. And if you don't have a lawyer or money to hire a lawyer, you get screwed. For all intents and purposes, they don't get screwed because they don't get prosecuted by the law by any of these laws for any of the transgressions that they have done and are continuing to do against the public. They don't take themselves to court, and the people don't have money to take them to court. You see what we saw what happened when some people try to take them to court, as in the case of Mr. Roody Wade, our next um, senior panelist as well, and chairman and presenter of this program. We saw what happened when um, the other gentleman they took the case to the court. The government acknowledged it was in breach of the Constitution. It asked the judge to let them go ahead and correct their breach. The judge let them off the hook. They came back and they didn't correct those breaches. And the people that they had entered into that agreement with, which then the judge turned around and classified as a tumbling agreement, when they came back to ask the judge to force them to comply, the judge is telling them she can't do nothing about it because they already entered into this side agreement that she encouraged. And she, at that point, was in dereliction of her duty or responsibility because she held control of the case. She disposed of a legal constitutional case that she did not review or dealt with or even answer the questions correctly to on the basis of a side deal, and allowed the government, as of today date, to still be, snubbing their nose at, at compliance to what the Constitution requires. As regards to the issue with Mr. Holy boy name, the gentleman, Yellow Man, the police authority under the instructions from political entities to frustrate Yellow Man's activities on behalf of the UDP, which is a political party, okay, can classify the gentleman as a gang member. I don't remember when the Constitution said that the UDP as a political organization and its operatives are to be classified as gang member in order to make them incapable of carrying out their political activities, because that's, for all intents and purposes, what happened. Then grabbed the man, they accused him of being a member of a gang, and then held him until the political activities for the day had finished. Well, not completely, but they held him long enough. He was when they called him the morning, he told them where he was. They asked him what he was doing. He told them what he was doing. Within 5 minutes of them having that conversation with him on the phone, the guys were already on picking him up to take him to the station to interrupt his activities from taking the people in his division to the march. In other words, they were violating the Constitution, which says that no authority should do anything like that. Okay? And in the second place, even if the man had belonged to a gang is not prosecutable as the law, as our law enforcement and the politicians would like for it to be believed. You can belong to any gang or any group to look after your interests, just like how the police belong to a police gang, and the ministers, they belong to a cabinet gang, and they even have their stuff in secrecy. You know, the political parties could be classified as a gang. That means that both PUP and UDP then are members of a gang and should be subject to the same behavior that they carried on against Yellow Man. But the deed is already done. They succeeded at what they were doing by using arbitrary and capricious illegal powers behind which they hide. That stuff is intolerable. I yield back. Mr.
I just wanted to add to that, gentleman, is that
Go ahead.
What this shows is that this particular police commissioner,
he's a rascal.
It shows extreme behavior that he's willing to take measures that are in violation of the Constitution.
The man is a doctorate.
Of the Constitution. Yeah, he's willing to take extreme measures in the violation of constitutional and civil rights of individuals in terms of in terms of carrying out his police power and his mandate of the political directives.
That is illegal. What he's doing, he's not carrying out what he's mandated to do under the police authority or
Mr.
under
Brackett,
the police.
I'm not saying that. I'm
He's
saying
misbehaving. He's acting rogue. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry for uh, go ahead,
yeah.
sir, Mr.
Let
Morrison.
me let me finish
Yes,
it
sir.
up.
Sure.
I'm saying he's carrying out his these measures and these mandates of not the police department, but his political directives in terms of trying to satisfy their control over the people of Belize when they come up against the government in terms of expressing their individual rights, their civil rights, and their constitutional rights. That's where that's where it shows the color and the extreme behavior that this commissioner is willing to take. And we need to point this out and we need to register each of these violation of individual and civil rights and extreme police powers and abuse that is being enacted on the citizens. And
I'm sorry.
in, in doing that, we will be able to track these and hold him accountable of these violations.
Uh, he cannot be held accountable because he feel like he's above the law as a top law man, and nobody else is going to arrest him and prosecute him for him hiding behind committing crimes under the color of law, because he doesn't think that anybody out here as Belizeans know or understand that there's such a thing as committing a crime under the color of law or what it is. So he does it and don't expect nobody to question it. And if everybody dares to question it or point it out, as in our case, where we do that, the lawyers back there are not jumping to go and try to get him sanctioned or do whatever, because they don't want to expose themselves to the political liabilities and or the financial burden to go through such a process. So these guys get away acting extrajudiciary and unlawful and commit crimes, like I said, under the color of law, pretending that what they're doing is lawful, legal, or constitutional. And most of them know that it is not. But who is going to question them or do anything about it is the point. And it's unfortunate.
I believe, Mr. Chairman,
Go right ahead, sir.
the actions of what happened is a ludicrous one. Because as a commissioner, you will go on to say that you received information and you acted on it. But as a commissioner, you are seeing a tape with a police corporal on it, and you have not acted within the laws of this country.
Subverting his police authority, that's when he was supposed to act legally, professionally. And in the case of being a police, he should have acted, to do his police job. It's required of him. It's mandated of him. And besides that, I'm sorry, you was about to say something else, Mr.
We have come to
I
the
think I heard.
point, sir.
Yeah, no, I heard. I was about to finish say something just now. I thought I was hearing somebody trying to interject something else. Otherwise, I would like to just finish the last thought. No? Okay. The Constitution says that no authority has the right to interfere with your papers, okay, your communication, or your right to advocate to anyone, any of your ideas, or whatever. And it is highly illegal for them to have drafted any kind of legislative means to give the police the idea or for the police to hide behind wanting to do or trying to do their police work, for them to be spying on anybody, as in the case of Yellow Man, and say that because they went and arrested him because he was conspiring to commit a crime, such as, for example, from their vantage point, he was texting with people, according to them, about what they were going to go and do or how they was going to go and do it. Why are they going to transgress the law to such an extent, come out and stipulate it verbally, when in fact what they are doing under that specific case is to violate the very Constitution? You cannot commit a crime as a police officer in order to say you're committing this crime because you was hoping to stop another crime from being committed. Your damn crime that you commit is already committed. You're liable to be prosecuted for that crime, like any other civilian. So you coming out and acknowledging that you tampered with people's communication things when the Constitution tells you you're not supposed to, you acknowledge that you deserve to be sanctioned one way or suffer some consequences one way or another for violation of people's human rights or whatever else rights. Because until you found out that that person had committed a crime, you have no right to go and use no police authority to go and grab that person and put them in jail, not having committed any crime. But then you turn around and say, well, you try to stop them from committing a crime, that's why you committed your crime. You're supposed to suffer the consequences of your crime, is my point. I yield back, sir. You have a comment, Mr. Morrison or Greg?
No, we have come to that time. I will go to
Yeah.
Mr. Morrison to do the closing after his comment.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure as always being here with you, gentlemen, to discuss these very real and national issues that pointing the direction to the type of society we'll have. Because if we, the people, allow this deal to go through that will provide the personal enrichment of yet another family, and then leave the people and the country holding the bag, then it is on us.
Sad, very sad.
We need to make sure that if this deal goes through, that it is done legally, that it is done with transparency, and that it tells us that perhaps we need to understand the entanglement we have with all our appointments and how people are made members of boards and the social security board and the telecommunication board and all these and the individuals that are supposed to be private shareholders representatives, and where we can get and how we can see how the actions of these appointed people are made and how they're driven or forced in some ways to act in some unison of those that are in control. And so this brings into reality how we as citizens today and in the future need to be able to address these appointments so that we can, in fact, get transparency at the very start of how these appointments are made and how these individuals are made to set themselves to be accountable to the responsibility that they are charged with. And so as we look at how this particular issue is moving ahead, we need to make sure that we remain vigilant and alert and make sure that we are in fact following through and making sure that nothing slides in the cracks and that we um, remain vigilant at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison, for your contribution tonight, sir, and gracing us. And thank you very much to Greg for helping us with the program for tonight, what you brought to the table and contributed. And I'd just like to say thanks to Belizeans at home and abroad, those of you who have listened to our program tonight, and those who will be listening later on at your convenience. We hope that this program have provided you some positive public benefit. And we're looking forward to presenting another program on Monday night when Mr. Gregory Brackett will be your chairman. God bless Belize and Belizeans at home and abroad. And I turn it over, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that,
You're
I
welcome, sir.
want to say good night to you, the Belizean people at home and abroad. Good night to you, Mr. Morrison and Mr. Brackett.
Good night,
It's
sir.
always a pleasure sitting with you guys virtually. You are both highly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.